That's fun. All right, and Member Becerra, are you with us?
She's here.
I see her, but she's muted, so I just want to make sure we can hear her. And then do we have Mr. Metzler? We're looking for Pastor Davis, Captain Wickham, and Mr. Metzler. Oh, we're still a bit early. Member Becerra, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Good afternoon. How are we doing?
Very good.
Good, good, good.
Very, very good. All right. So it looks like we'll be good to go at 5 o'clock. All right, I'm going to mute for a little bit and I will be back.
Oh boy. Pastor Dane, we need to do a podcast from your car, dial a prayer from your car.
You know what? I'm all ears. I'd love to
Yeah.
talk over that possibility.
Yeah, we'll do a podcast from your car.
That sounds great.
Instead
Yeah,
of
it's
dial a
great
prayer,
about-
dial a call.
That's
Dial
a
a
great
call.
thing about prayer. It works anywhere.
It does. Okay, let's break the ice. Charlene, how's the piggy?
Her name is Dreamy.
Dreamy?
Dreamy.
Dreamy.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. Charlene, I'll give you new names.
No, it's okay. She's doing great. She lets us hold her now.
Uh-oh.
She hasn't let me put an outfit on her, so I'm waiting for that perfect picture that I can show with her wearing a dress.
Isn't there a saying about that? You
What?
could dress it. Yeah, I'll leave it alone.
Oh,
Um,
About lipstick and something like that, isn't
how
there?
about pigs and lipstick? Yes. I
Yeah.
don't remember what it is though.
Yeah. Don't put that pig in a dress.
You're not gonna put lipstick on.
I'm not going to put lipstick on her, but she's going to wear a dress.
And you're going to paint her nails. Watch.
She has outfit changes.
She is okay, including a tutu. Is she-
She has a flower headband. She has outfits. Karen just told me that all the sports gear has gone on sale, so now we got to dress her in some football teams.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear Dallas went on sale at the Dollar Tree. Something
Be
about
quiet.
the team. and-
That's okay. I think we got to start a meeting.
I know. My goodness. Do we have Captain Wickham with us, Madam Clerk?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So, Mr. Metzler, if for some reason Mr. Wickham, Captain Wickham doesn't join us, will you lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, let's begin. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 30, 2021. The time is 5 p.m. The special meeting of the following will come to order. The Victorville City Council and the same council also sitting as the Victorville Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, the city as housing asset successor, Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. Madam Clerk, will you kindly call the roll?
Councilmember Becerra,
Here.
Councilmember Gomez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving,
Present.
Mayor Jones.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum. At this time, we're going to call on Pastor Davis to lead us in the invocation. And has Captain Wickham joined us by chance?
Not yet.
All right, so Mr. Metzler, we're going to go ahead and ask you to follow the pastor with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll pray for guidance and God's wisdom as you face a big decision tonight. I know we've had several of these special council meetings recently. A wise leader told me a few years ago, the best decision that you could make is the right decision. The second best decision you could make is the wrong decision. The worst decision you could make is no decision at all. And so with that in mind, I'll pray that the council will be able to make the right decision tonight. But if not, I'll pray that the council at least makes the wrong decision. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you in Jesus' name, and we thank you that you are the source, the fountain of all wisdom and guidance. We don't presume to have all the answers, Lord. There are more things that we don't know than things that we do know. And so, Lord, we come to you as the fountain of wisdom and ask that you would give your guidance and direction tonight. Lord, as leaders, we always want to make the best decision. We always want to make the right decision. I pray that the council will do that. But Lord, if they find themselves once again at an impasse, I pray that they would courageously make the wrong decision because, Lord, we need to move forward. So give them guidance, give them direction, give them unity as they make a decision together. And we'll move forward together, Lord, as a city, as a community, as a leadership team. Thank you, God, for what you're going to do tonight. We trust in you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Amen.
Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. If everybody could please stand, find the flag, face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, will you kindly present the agenda and any revisions thereto?
Tonight's City Council meeting is being held virtually on Zoom due to safety concerns related to COVID-19 and to reduce exposure for our community members, city employees, and council members. Our virtual meetings are conducted in accordance with the Brown Act and special provisions enacted during the coronavirus pandemic, and will be held this way until further notice. We invite members of the public to participate in our meetings via Zoom. However, for those who do not wish to comment on issues, our meeting may be viewed on YouTube. For future council meetings, public comments may be submitted via email to the city clerk. Submissions must be received no later than 4 p.m. the day of our council meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no revisions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, moving on to conflict of interest declarations. Do any council members have any conflicts of interest to declare?
No.
Hearing and seeing none, we're going to move on. All right, well, again, welcome to tonight's meeting of the Victorville City Council. Your city council is interested in your ideas and opinions and furthermore endeavors to incorporate them into its deliberations. At the same time, the council must be able to carry out its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, this meeting will be administered in accordance with the council's established policies and procedures and Government Code 54957.9. Open meeting laws do not confer any privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law, nor do they permit council members to engage in dialogue during the public comment period. All testimony is to be directed solely to the council. Our new public comment procedure approved by the council on March 16, 2020 is now in effect. This procedure was adopted to make it easier and more convenient for all members of the public to address the council. Rather than having to wait for hours to speak, all public comment on agendized and/or non-agendized topics will take place during the comment period at the beginning of the meeting. Public comments will be no longer than 3 minutes per community member. When comments are invited, click the raise your hand feature located on the Zoom screen. Individuals will be unmuted, called on by name, then recognized by the presiding officer. Speakers are requested to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individuals may speak to issues not posted on the agenda during the public comments section on the agenda, providing those issues are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The presiding officer may decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on a variety of issues, a variety of factors, including the number of persons wishing to be heard. The presiding officer may also take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, and those who do are subject to removal from the meeting pursuant to Penal Code 403. Your understanding and cooperation are appreciated. This time, Madam Clerk, we're going to go ahead and open up the public comment period. Do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, the first speaker is Romero Rodriguez.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez. Welcome.
Good evening. For the last few weeks, I always come on online and start speaking about issues and history of the city. And then just for after I finished speaking, then the lawyer says, no, it's not true. But I'm not making this thing up. I'm just quoting what was published in the Daily Press back from 2018, 2019, as far as 2010. That's all. Everything I'm saying of the aiding and abetting of the fraud, of the settlement, of all the ill-gotten gains and everything that's being scammed and schemed on the city of Victorville is posted there, and you can read about it. Just Google fraud and investment fraud and corruption Victorville, and you'll get a lot of material to pick up. Whether the city settled or they decided to settle, if they wouldn't have settled, it would have gone south for them. So what does it mean, settled? They still had to pay a fine because they did something wrong. And you as a city have to remember that. This meeting today, there's 24 cities in the county of San Bernardino. Only one city is the one that's being opposed to the micro kitchens. The reason they're going to do this today is they're going to say to try and get a lot of people up there so they can lower the times to only 1 minute, because today the thing is not agendized. They're going to put the McEachron in there. And they're just using the micro kitchens to get people online. So at the last moment, there's not going to be enough people. They have already planned. They play you. Our mayor, all she's very interested in just having her picture on the wall. The other person is defending her rights for the city. But you got to remember, this city, the people in charge of the city right now are just defending issues of the city. They want to make sure that Measure P, since it got passed, Measure P is going to allow them to raise all their salaries. Nothing for the city. They're going to go from $250,000 to $404,000. Pensions are going to go from $7.5 million to almost $13 million. When us as the little guys, we see our pensions, the total pensions for the life of the pension is $250,000. How much money do these people need? And that's what they're having this meeting for. You got to remember, they don't care about the micro kitchens. It's just an excuse to make sure they lower the times for us to speak, like we've seen before. The more people go on there, the lower the times. That's what it is. There's 24 cities in the county, and only the city of Victorville is opposed to this. They're using this as a ruse. And the people of Victorville, please open up your eyes and let's clean the city. These people have been there for many years. Please vote them out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. And Mr. DeMortnowski, at the last meeting, it's the chair's understanding that there was going to be a response to the mischaracterizations that were made about lawsuits and so forth from the last meeting. When is it expected that that would be available for the public to read?
Certainly, that will be available at the April 6th meeting. And
Okay.
again, some of the statements, there have been no fines in connection with the SEC hearing. So total misrepresentations again, but that'll be included.
Sure. And certainly could the attorney include with that what settlement means and doesn't mean in general? Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
The next speaker is Lizette Mendoza.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Mendoza.
Hi, good evening. This is Lizette calling again today on behalf of Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice, also known as ICAJ. I do have a colleague and a community member who are not able to raise their hand using the Zoom feature. So I ask that the raising the hand feature be unblocked again. I'm sorry, I was not listening to the whole part of the beginning of the meeting, so maybe you gave instructions there, but again, due to access issues, I ask that you unblock it if you haven't unblocked the raising.
Yes, so Mendoza, hold on just a moment. Madam Clerk, will you please stop the clock? So no one is being prevented from raising their hand during the public comment period. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, you are correct.
So sometimes there are technical difficulties that the city has no control over on the end of the person who's calling in. And as much as we want the public to call and speak in, we just don't have the means to bring them on if we don't know that they wish to speak. So Madam Clerk, will you kindly start the clock again and please proceed, Ms. Mendoza?
Okay, I just unmuted, so the clock should be running now. So yeah, we again support this over 45 different organizations made up of people all across the Inland Empire, right? We have members all the way in Barstow who would benefit from this. And so again, if you remember from letters that we sent, this legislation, AB 626, was already passed in the state, co-authored by the California Conference of Directors of Environmental Health, CCDEH, for their acronym. And it includes safeguards for independent cooks to start small scale food businesses from their homes, in addition to obtaining a mandatory permit from the county health department, passing a kitchen inspection, and obtaining the California Food Safety Manager certification. These micro kitchens, also known as MICOs, are required to adhere to additional limitations that further reduce risk of foodborne illnesses, including, because these MICOs are small scale, they're limited to 30 meals a day, 60 meals per week. And so they're not going to cause any issues with the pipes and traffic that you all are referring to and are concerned about, and that the agenda document mentions today. You are looking at limited impacts of how this is going to impact your larger community. And again, this gives an opportunity for people to gross up to $50,000 a year. What job in your community that's a blue collar job offers that? And if you're not offering that yet as the leadership that you provide in your city, then you need to start working on that. And I'm sure that's what other callers here that come to you every day or every week are talking to you. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but that's the leadership that you need to take. And so these MICOs are allowing, fully staffed, full-time employees, at least one or two per household, to be able to provide food for their table and to make ends meet and rent and taxes that go back to the city that you care so much about for infrastructure, your salaries, and just to name a few, right? So let's stop looking at the little issues, the foodborne illnesses and the traffic that you're so scared about, and let's look at how this is really providing a greater good.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. And for our future speakers, the chair respectfully asks if you would include the city in which you reside. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Miguel Soto Jr.
Welcome, Mr. Soto.
Welcome, City Council members. Working families should have the opportunity to make ends meet and to provide food for their families. The problem of traffic congestion and foodborne illness is not of something that we can't address or put policies or procedures to fix them. Working families should still have the opportunity. And so we should definitely recommend in terms of having micro kitchens allowed in our city. The working families need that opportunity, especially during this time of COVID. And the concerns of traffic congestion, to kind of piggyback on Mrs. Mendoza, and foodborne illness is not something that we can't fix or something that we cannot address. It's something that we could move forward and fix, put policies or procedures in place. It's not that difficult. We should work with the working families, and we should pass micro kitchens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Karima Abdul.
Good evening, Ms. Abdul.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Karima Abdul, right here from Victorville. I urge the Council to stand with the smallest of business owners and approve this today. It's a win-win-win situation for our economy, for the residents of Victorville, and for people who just like good food. And also, I would like to close this out in the memory of Isaac Raul Lopez, who died helping to make our roads better and our infrastructure here in Victorville. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abdul, very much. Madam Clerk.
Mariela Hakis.
Good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mariela Jaques, and I am a resident of Hesperia, but also an organizer with the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. As a member of the high desert community, but also as someone who works directly with High Desert members, I have been a witness to the hardship our community has been facing throughout this pandemic. Many of our community members have lost their jobs and have to resort to creating small businesses, such as selling food from home. The micro enterprise home kitchen operations would help formalize these home cooks who are only trying to make a decent living. I understand that there were some concerns in the last meeting that you guys brought up, but we can take Riverside for an example and see that that isn't a real reason to oppose to MACOs. On the contrary, we should take this opportunity and bring this to our communities who are in much need right now. This is your opportunity as city representatives to show your constituents that you actually care about supporting them and supporting the COVID-19 recovery. We don't need any more obstacles in our community. We need community members to be supported by their elected officials. So please support MACOs and vote no on resolution 21-020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Valentin Godina.
Good evening, Mr. Godina.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little soft. Can you speak up a bit?
Are you sure you want me to speak up?
Yes, I do, sir, so that we can all hear you.
Okay. I warned you. Okay. Micro kitchens are an American foundation that has been the start of many businesses that have become international franchise. Case in point, Carl's Jr. started in his home, then went out with a cart out into the streets, and now is a internationally known restaurant and franchise. IBM started in their garage. This is the way American businesses start. The city of Victorville has a history of not participating with the county on the basis that the city of Victorville knows best. Residents' point of consideration on how well the city knows best, our public library. Our public library was once in control of the city of the county of San Bernardino. Yet the city told the residents that they knew best on how to manage this. We have the worst library in the county. It is an embarrassment compared to the county ran libraries that our neighbors have. So when the city claims that they know best and they care for our residents, that is not true. That is false. They just want to keep land use control so that they can control how they mismanage our city. They will not repair the road to the library, and they complain and they use that fires and safety. Let's go with fires and safety. Old Town is burning down, has been burnt down under the city council's watch. But yet we need to trust the city. I don't think so. I think we need to trust our residents who are trying to make a living and trying to put food on their table, and you need to stop criminalizing them and forcing them to a life of crime. You, city council, are doing this to our residents and to our city. You need to start working with the county who knows best, who has proven to know best. Why hasn't the city made a large-scale vaccination program up here for us? Everybody else is doing it. The county is doing it. What is the city doing for us, the residents, other than criminalizing us and making us to be criminals and preventing us from earning an honest living?
Thank you, Mr. Godina. Madam Clerk.
Christians is next. Christian's iPhone.
Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Or
thank
it
you.
takes a
Yeah.
second to unmute.
Yes.
Okay. How you guys doing? Yeah, I'm calling again because again, this issue with the emergency meeting stuff, I'm just wondering, was it that much of an emergency? But I don't know. I mean, most people are on vacation this week, like I am, but I still want to listen to the arguments and all this. I'm just not sure if it was really necessary to throw it as an emergency. But if you guys want to do stuff like that, I don't really I don't really agree with it, just because it's a touchy subject that other residents should have the chance to speak their minds as well and chip in their peace of mind. But as far as for me, I don't see a problem with it, because I mean, the more the merrier is what they always say, and it's almost true. Sometimes people, it could be convenient for like people to have these kitchens and availability, just like the gentleman said. I mean, part of America was founded on small business this way. It started in people's garages, people's kitchens, great establishment and corporations nowadays that started in somebody's home. And I just feel that by taking away that opportunity from people, especially during the COVID situation where a lot of restaurants are closed, and I mean, it's the same thing. I feel that you go and you pick up your food and then you walk away, and that's what's happening. And then I say this, just regulate them. That's what you guys should be concentrate on. Try it out for a while, then you regulate, like say if there's problems with streets and everybody that's complaining about parking or other stuff, then you regulate it, right? Then you try and fix the problem, and then you make an overall assumption if it's worth it, that you want to keep it or not. Maybe like a pilot program first. I'm just trying to solve, you guys should be trying to solve issues right now, not just disregard them, especially something that's I think it's good for the community. That's what I have to say. Have a nice Easter, everyone.
Thank you. You too, sir. Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Fanily, PEOC.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Fanely Milan. I'm the IE community organizer at PEOC, and I'm here to support micro kitchens. And
can you tell us from where you're from?
Yes, right now I'm working remotely, but my family home is in Hesperia.
Thank you.
Yes, and right now I would like to take this opportunity to remind you all that people are still struggling to make it through this pandemic. COVID has caused a widespread devastation to our economy, with particular harm to service workers in our food industry. And home kitchens do expand access to healthy meals and allow community members to determine their own nutritional options. I'm asking you today to please support micro kitchens in Victorville and all throughout our San Bernardino County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Linus X.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, my name's Linus. I'm a business owner in Flamingo Heights, which is south of Lucerne Valley in the unincorporated San Bernardino. My concerns regarding AB 626 is overwhelming the probably already overwhelmed regulatory workers that are working for the county, trying to keep up on inspections, and also just as a business owner and trying to expand and invest in my operating functional commercial business. And if that puts me in the back of the line with a bunch of a lot of home chefs that are trying to get permitted, and that delays my permitting process and costs me money because I have to wait for a whole another queue of different of home businesses. That concerns me, as the fact I have to pay a commercial lease and these folks don't. I just feel like it's going to create an undue hardship for commercial business owners. Another concern that I have is that I live in a pretty underserved community, and as such, it's difficult and risky to have opened a commercial business at all. And we have home chefs. I have one in particular that's trying to open a competing home kitchen directly behind my business, like on a bordering property. And if she's given the green light to just sell out my back door, I take issue with that. So if I have to apply, if I have to play by the rules for a commercial kitchen, I would hope that the same standards would apply for home cooks. So I would like for, for there to be some thought put into where home cooks are allowed and just not be allowed to sell out of my back door or the back alley, and undercut commercial businesses that are struggling, particularly the restaurant industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Ashiko Newman?
Good evening, Ms. Newman.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you. I have 2 points. First, regarding the home kitchens, I believe that because of regulations and ensuring that food is cooked properly and within, appropriate standards, it's necessary for us to move forward with proper regulatory measures. My husband has desires to do so. He's taken the proper means, and it's not fair for people who choose not to take the proper means, whereas other people have done so. So I just think it's appropriate. I'm all for small businesses. I'm all for entrepreneurship. I just think that it is necessary to take the proper measures to get there. Secondly, I would like to address the issue of the vacant seat on the current council. I know it has been said before that the former mayor was ousted from the city council, but I just wanted to make a point that she was not ousted. She actually broke the law. She was no longer residing in the city. And I think that it was necessary for that seat to be vacant. In terms of the vacant seat, I think it is totally voter suppression to not appoint a person to hold that seat. I think the voters have already spoken, and if we're talking about examples, let's follow our own Governor Newsom, who appointed 2 people just recently. He appointed Alex Padilla to the state senator. He's now state senator as of January 18th by appointment. Also, Rob Bonta, who was appointed March 24th. Because the people have already spoken, it is not appropriate for us to minimize my voice as a voter in terms of voter suppression. So I think that we should put this back on the agenda and have the council make a decision in terms of the seat and appointment. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. Madam Clerk?
Those are all the speakers. I do have to note that we did receive 20 public comments regarding the home kitchens, and they've been distributed to the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The public comment period is now closed, and the chair brings the items back to the council. With that, we're going to move on to our first business in order, which is item number 1, written communications. Mr. Metzler, will you please tee up the item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave my video off just because I've been experiencing some issues. Madam Mayor and members of the council, certainly thank you for allowing me to introduce this item. This is an item that we have discussed at a previous council meeting. And this was actually brought back at the request of the supervisor's office, Supervisor Cook, representing our district, as it's our understanding, and we've been advised that the County Board of Supervisors is in fact planning to take this item up at its April 6th meeting. When we met last, we had just believed that it was going to occur in April and didn't know exactly when. And so there is an active effort going on right now amongst county leadership to poll all the communities to see where they're at. And this issue that is before us is not an issue about use. A lot of the speakers really focused on MECO as a use and whether or not we're allowing for or accepting of MECOs as a use in this city. That's not the issue here before us. The issue here before us more has to do with local control and whether or not we want to allow, pursuant to AB 377 and 626, which we believe are just bad bills. We just believe it's bad law. We believe it's another attempt by California to try to circumvent local control by, in this case, granting the authority to the county. And the county effectively is empowered to make a decision and uniformly or unilaterally apply MECOs as a permissible use countywide in all of the cities of the county, regardless of whether or not you as a city council support those particular uses. Up until this day, we have not had a proper deliberation on the uses in itself. And the typical approach, and especially how we do it as we respect local control, if we're to consider a use such as Miko's, we have a process that's very traditional that we go through. In fact, we put a lot of trust in a planning commission that comprises members that you appoint. And because land use decisions are so serious of issues, we have a responsibility to maintain compatibility citywide amongst all uses. We have a planning commission that's dedicated solely to focus on those particular issues. This particular use has not been discussed at the planning commission level. And to the extent the council wanted to take a position on whether or not to support.
Mr. Metzler? Mr. Metzler, you cut out for just a moment. Can you back up a sentence or two? Mr. Metzler, you're breaking up.
Where did I lose you?
Can you back up a couple sentences? The last we really heard was that the planning commission hadn't contemplated Miko's.
Okay, and can you hear me now?
Yes.
Are you going in?
Okay. Mr. Metzler, are you with us? Mr. Metzler.
Give me just 2 seconds.
Yes.
He's calling in right now.
Fabulous.
Do you want to use my computer?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm struggling here. I'm gonna try to do this again. For some reason, I'm not dialing in. So where I was going with the planning commission is that we have a typical process for all types of use, all types of proposed new businesses, and those are discussed at the planning commission level. Even before getting to planning commission, there's actually a noticing this where we have an ability to notify our local residents or even members so that we can actually get more feedback that's closer to the community. That's not what this item is about. And in fact, if we either do nothing and trust that the county move forward on its own and tries to broad brush this use countywide, it would actually impact us in such where we could not effectively regulate, control, enforce, especially at a time right now where we're actually expanding our code enforcement. We're trying to get more proactive on the code enforcement side. This kind of use, if approved by the county, we would have no ability to influence where they take place or where they occur. So this item that's brought before you has more to do with local control. We want to see to the county. We want to be in how these types of businesses pop up. And I would encourage the council that if in fact the council did have an interest in these types of uses, that we introduce that type of use likely to the planning commission and start we normally would start. I will tell you that if this council does in fact have higher allow us to exist in community, hire a legislative effort to pursue a different so that we can, as opposed to allowing the county to just approve them without any additional local regulations. So the item before you tonight more so is a recommendation to opt out of the participation by the county and allowing the MECOs to exist countywide, and not an issue of whether or not we actually support MECOs. The author on your item is Scott Webb. He is the one that put together the technical detail and analysis. He's available as your city planner for any further questions or comments you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Metzler. Madam Clerk, will you please read the recommendation?
That the City Council adopt resolution number 21-020, attachment A, recommending the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors not opt in to allowing the county to authorize micro enterprise home kitchen operations countywide, thereby circumventing Victorville's land use authority.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, the chair is going to open this up to technical questions for clarification as it relates to the staff report. Certainly the questions can be asked of Mr. Webb and Mr. Metzler, keeping in mind that Mr. Metzler's connection is somewhat tentative. Thank you. So we'll begin with Member Gomez.
Thank you for starting with me. Very important issue here that we're addressing. So one of the questions that I have for staff is, how does the land use authority aid in tonight's decision to opt out from bringing forth these micro enterprise kitchens?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and fellow council members. The land use authority is key to the reason why staff is recommending the council take this action tonight. Traditionally, we require a home occupation permit for all uses that are conducted from a residence. This legislation, if the Board of Supervisors were to approve MECOS, would not allow us to go through that home occupation permit process. And that's the key that we're focused on. We're actually not opposed to home kitchens. And the resolution actually has a section that states that the city of Victorville, if the council were to approve this resolution, that the city of Victorville will be open to supporting new state legislation that preserves the local authority. So we're focused primarily on the local impacts that this subversion from the state is doing to our local authority.
Okay, and how would land use authority for kitchen chefs from homes be benefiting if the council were to opt in and we had those riggers from the state come in and aid us in allowing these processes to take place in the city of Victorville and all over the county?
I believe there's some confusion I'd like to clear up regarding opting in. As a city, we're not the local health agency, and at the state level, this is the first time that they have provided legislation on allowing home kitchens. And in doing so, they totally left out local authority. So it's important for us to consider that as a local municipality that's going to be addressing the impacts that are caused by MECOS, to preserve that local authority. But we do not have the ability as a city to opt in. The state will need to change the legislation, and I hope that they would, to allow for local municipalities to opt in. But we'd obviously have to have the county health department to have authorization to have home kitchens, because they would be the ones that would inspect the kitchen. But we would have other means to regulate where they're placed, hours of operation, whether it's just delivery only, or whether we would allow for sit down restaurant style within a residential neighborhood.
Okay. And how many collaborators sponsored resolution 21-020, and who were their names by title and name?
Well, as your city planner, we track, our whole division tracks new legislation. And working with the city manager, we are typically opposed to new legislation that takes away our local authority. So I don't have a number for you, but I think it was a collaboration of staff that brought this forward.
And my last question is, I noticed that Paul Cook's office was the one that asked the city of Victorville to weigh in for these micro kitchens. How much of an influence does his office have over the city of Victorville to bring this forth as it's doing today? Do we know that or understand that concept?
Madam
I can't-
Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Metzler.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it was a simple ask of staff and members from the city. As far as how much influence, that's all it really was a simple ask. It's was presented to us as a serious issue at the county, one that the county wanted to hear from all the communities clearly as to what their position is. This is a matter that's been deliberated for some time, and it's been an issue of discussion for some time. And because it's crossed actually periods of time where we've had different councils now to be able to discuss the matter with, it was appropriate to bring it back. There was also a view that by not taking a position, especially being as big of a city that we are, that if we did not take a position, it would create an impression that we did not care. And the fact that we do care tremendously about local control is why we felt it appropriate to consider the request of the supervisor and bring the item back for your consideration and decision.
Okay, so that brings another question. I'm surmising perhaps that Paul Cook's office not only contacted the city of Victorville, but also Hesperia and all of its divisions that it covers. Does the city of Victorville know that, or is it under any awareness of the contact of other cities, not just Victorville, to weigh in?
I am not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Member
You're
Becerra.
welcome.
Member Becerra.
Mr. Webb, I know you answered one of the questions. You said the health department would oversee and inspect the kitchen portion of it. Who would oversee the rest of it? Like you said, they could either opt in to do delivery, they could eat there. Who would oversee the program?
Councilmember Becerra, thank you for that question. I was speaking in terms of if we had the ability to oversee. Currently, the current legislation does not allow the city to oversee any aspect of the permitting process. We have to treat it as a permitted use. There would be no home occupation permit, no business license, no certificate of occupancy that the city could enforce and track.
That's it. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Mr. Webb. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Becerra. Mayor Pro Tem Irving.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Webb. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Webb. I'd like to ask just a few questions. Let me ask a question. For cities that have their own health departments, are they able to opt in independently or independent of the county?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have our own health department. That means that we would rely solely on the county. The other question is, and I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Let's say the county opts out at any time, especially since we're a charter city. If our council so desired and we included the planning commission, could we embrace and authorize micro kitchens? Given the fact that we don't necessarily, could we do that? Could we work around that? And how would we regulate them if we don't have a health department?
Yes, we could definitely have a discussion on the item and put forth an ordinance that would accommodate for future kitchens. However, that law would really not go into effect until at the state level, they broaden the use of home kitchens. Because right now with the current legislation, and again, this is the first time that the state has authorized these home kitchens, they only allow home kitchens through the MICOS program. And that MICOS program does not include Victorville. It does not include cities that have that don't have a health department. And it doesn't give the counties and cities that do have a health department the ability to create their own standards. So I just kind of want to make that clear again, that it's very limiting, and the county, in a sense, can't opt in and then create their own standards to address our local impacts under the current legislation. So yes, we could have a discussion. We could hope that the state changes their law, and we could actually advocate to the state that they brought in the MICOS program to include local oversight.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I might,
Yes.
to speak to the charter, the question about the charter. Actually, that's a very good question. Very interesting idea. I do know as much that our current charter does not contemplate this particular use, and it's the development code that's established pursuant to ordinance. So I'm not exactly sure currently, as the charter is written, that you could rely on it to accomplish something such as MICOS. But I guess the question for the attorney would be, absent a success in pursuing special legislation, could something be pursued locally in terms of charter amendment that could accomplish the same?
I don't believe, first, I don't think our charter obviously does not address this issue, and I don't think that even being a charter city, we'd be able to usurp essentially the state legislation on this issue. The charter city powers have been minimized significantly by the state over the last few years. So I would think there'd be an effort at the state legislature to prevent us from doing anything as a charter city that was at odds with what the state legislation provides at this point.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any other questions?
No, I do not. No, I think what I hear is, no, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a few just to follow up on the last question from Mr. Metzler and Mr. DeBortnowski. So I understand the concept about the charter, but if we were to move forward in such a way that we wanted to contemplate a version of MICOS in the future, could we do that by ordinance? Or can we just go through the normal planning commission process?
I think what Mr. Webb pointed out, which I agree with, is that we could have a discussion at it. The way to pursue it would be to propose legislation at the state level and maybe even seek a coalition of other cities to support a program or just amendments to the current law that would allow the city to control these MICOS programs themselves. Just doing it ourselves by ordinance would not work.
It wouldn't. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then Mr. Metzler, because the county has a huge decision before it, they either opt out or they opt in, and they're effectively going to make this decision for every city in the county and non-incorporated areas that don't have their own health department. Isn't it reasonable that they would reach out to learn the perspectives of the various agencies?
Yes, it would be considered very reasonable, and we've certainly appreciated them doing so.
Okay, thank you. All right, those are all the questions I have. That said, the chair at this time is going to venture a motion and move that the council adopt staff's recommendation with the understanding that once our code enforcement department's proactive model is well established, that the council examine what steps it might take to affect future legislation to see if the city of Victorville can create its own version of MICOS.
I have a substitute motion for that.
Please go ahead.
Yes, so my substitute motion is that the Honorable City Council not adopt resolution number 21020, attachment A, but instead opt in to allow the county to authorize those micro enterprise home kitchen operations countywide.
Thank you. We have a substitute. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the substitute motion dies. We're back to the main motion that was moved by the chair. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that one, Mayor Jones.
Thank you. We have a second. Now we're going to take up discussion on the pending motion. We'll begin with me since I made the motion. So just to be very clear, this council does care deeply about our community. And it's very important that we have policies and procedures in place before we contemplate going down a road that could be rife with problems that could prove very difficult for our community at large. So certainly we've recently adopted a proactive model when it comes to code enforcement that'll get us on the right track. And then perhaps, in the future, when that's very well established, we can, take a look at what we can do to influence legislation to see whether our city can and other cities can create their own version of MICOs. I don't believe this has anything to do with criminalizing our residents. This has to do with making good business decisions that's going to be for the overall good for our community, the overall health for our community. And certainly I understand some of the comments from our residents about feeling like they're now being put in a position where they have to compete unfairly with others who don't have to go through the same processes that they do. So those are my comments. And Member Becerra, you seconded, so I'll go to you next.
No comments, Mayor Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez, on the pending motion.
Yes, so as of January 1st, 2019, we know that there was home chefs in California that made the sale of meals in homes for neighborhoods to be able to do these operations. And so many of our counties have decided to opt in, and they're doing a lot of these pilot programs. And I wanted to inform the council that the law that was passed in the state of California is different from the one that is called the California Homemade Cottage Food. And there's a definition that's specifically to the MICOs, or the micro enterprise home kitchen operations, which is a food facility that is at home where food is stored, handled, and prepared for, and many to be served for customers. So these micro kitchens are not, they wouldn't be possible for businesses to grow like some of our members, we're talking about members of the public that we had growing from these types of organisms or these origins of food distributions through the micro enterprise kitchens. So I just wanted to really let the council understand that we are looking at the land use authority, but when we don't allow our communities to have what they believe is in their best interest, and they elect us, and we seem to put other drawings upon what we think is good for them, I think that's what makes for bad policy, and democracy is not in front of their eyes as visible as you and I would think they're seeing it. They're seeing it as micro kitchens not being allotted in here in the city of Victorville. And I think that's not the message that I would want to send across. And so when I created that motion, it was generally to show the people that there are people in the council that are willing to bring this forth, because there's
Member
a lot
Gomez,
of.
I'm going to bring you back to the pending motion, please. Redirect you to the.
So I appreciate the fact that we had another special meeting, so we could definitely weigh in, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Gomez. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm somewhat familiar with micro kitchens, or to me, this is just a new name for an old business structure. In fact, on visits to South Louisiana with family, I've been a patron of a few of them, so I'm not opposed to them. However, I do value local control, especially as it relates to land use and zoning. And I do think that if we were to, embrace micro kitchens, because I know of people personally, friends who started operations outside of their home, and the businesses grew. And this one particular young man is a pit master of national recognition. So I do embrace it, but I also think that we should regulate the micro kitchens within our community. This is new legislation. There are probably going to be a lot of obstacles, hiccups, kinks that need to be worked out. I do, again, I just want to say that I'm not against the home chefs, but I also value and understand local control and land use. I've seen it in action before. So I just want to leave it there. I'm not opposed to home kitchens though. At some point, I'd like for us to embrace Miss Rosa and her home kitchen business. I don't know how we get there, but I'd like to have that discussion in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And Madam Clerk, I believe the chair has a little bit of time remaining on comments. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yes, and so I agree with what Mayor Pro Tem said and Member Becerra said. The main issue for me is making sure that whatever path we go down, it's safe and wholesome for our entire community. But more than that, local control and accountability is extraordinarily important to me. And I am not willing to open the floodgates to anyone being able to lord their will over our city. Thank you. All right, discussion period is now closed. Madam Clerk, will you kindly take the vote?
Councilmember Becerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Gomez?
No on the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Irving?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Motion passes with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Thank you. So the council has just taken action in accordance with the staff recommendation in addition to being open to working with our legislators in the future to see if there's a version that we can work on that would be workable for our unique needs in our city. With that said, that concludes our business for the evening. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.